Ready?
Ready.
Okay. I think I started it, yeah.
Today we will introduce our speaker, whose language is Kiswahili, and by speaker I mean the speaker that we will be analyzing today, and we will talk about points such as culture, geography, the language of the person. We'll talk about the phonological system and go into details in that. And then for our conclusion, we'll give our own diagnose. And the speaker order will be me, and then Rochelle, and then Kelly. So let's get started. So the speaker's background is that they were born in Kenya, and they can speak 3 languages: Kiswahili, Kikuyu, and English. The speaker has been able to learn English at age 6 and has been living in the US for 10 years. And to go more into detail on the language that the speaker speaks, Kiswahili is spoken by about 140 million people in Central and other parts of Africa. And Kiswahili is one of the most prominent dialects, along with Kimvita and Kiamu. And this language is spoken in a lot of countries such as Uganda, Kenya, etc. It's listed there for you to read. And one thing to know about the language is that its written system is in English or in the Roman alphabet, but originally, before colonization, the language was written in Arabic script. The culture is, to put a few notes about the culture of the people who speak this language, they tend to be indirect communicators, and meaning that they don't like to say blunt statements or they're uncomfortable with blunt statements. So they respect hierarchy, and it's important to note that people who of this culture, they use both hands to give you something instead of using their left hand, or they use their right hand to give you something because it's considered rude to give an item with their left hand. So that's something that is important to note. And then I will hand this part off to Rochelle, who will be discussing segmental sequences and share the sample of the speaker. So go ahead, Rochelle.
All right, so we're gonna take a minute to just listen to our speaker real quick and play that real quick.
Oh, I'll share it.
Please call Stella. Ask her to bring these things with her from the store. 6 spoons of fresh snow peas, 5 thick slabs of blue cheese, and maybe a snack from her brother Bob. We also need a small plastic snake and a big toy frog for the kids. She can scoop these things into 3 red bags and go meet her Wednesday at the train station.
Okay. So for the segmental differences, we noticed that the consonants, there were final obstructant, devoicing, and then interdental fricative to stop. For vowels, we noticed there was shortening, lengthening, raising, lowering, and nasalization. And then syllable structure change, we noticed that there was, we noticed that there was liquid deletion and cluster reduction as well. And then for the super segmental differences, we noticed that there was stress on normal, like the speaker places a stress on normal content words. And then the tempo, the speech rate that the speaker was speaking at was 134.6 words per minute, which is kind of low for an average speaker who's like reading. But we figured that since the speaker's native language is not English, it makes sense that he reads it a little bit slower than a person who speaks natively English. And then intonation, we noticed that there was a rising intonation towards the end of each sentence, which also just is something that just shows that he probably lacks a little bit of confidence in speaking English as well. Moving on, I'll give it over to Kelly.
Okay, so here is the consonant chart with most of the consonants used in Kiswahili. So the Kiswahili language consists of 36 consonant phonemes in total, most of which are pictured here on the consonant chart, but there are also a number of consonants used in the language that are not included in the consonant chart. And a lot of these are allophonic variations of the phonemes that are included on the chart. So some of those examples would be the aspirated consonants. So the phonemes P, T, K, and Ch can be pronounced with an aspiration. And then one of the more unique features of the Kiswahili language is its use of implosive consonants, which these are produced by inhaling air to the lungs during production instead of that expiration for the aspirated consonants. And then there are also 6 consonants that can be pronounced prenasalized. So those are all listed here, the prenasalized consonants that are used in Kiswahili. And then because the language is so heavily influenced by Arabic, you often see the use of these velar fricatives, which so that X there, and then the one that looks like the Y is voiced, and then the X is devoiced. And it's almost like a gurgling sound when you're like gurgling water or something, and there's no English comparison to either of these phonemes that, again, can be used in the in-loan words from Arabic. And then moving on to the vowel phonemes in Kiswahili. So all 6 of the vowel sounds used in the Kiswahili language can also be found in the English phonemic alphabet. So by only using 6 vowel sounds total in the language, you can see that it's a little more limited, especially when compared to a standard American English speaker, which the language uses 14 phonotactic vowel sounds. And those vowel sounds consist of 9 pure vowel sounds and then 5 diphthongs. And the biggest difference between Kiswahili and English is Kiswahili does not use any diphthongs. So this means that even when a word is maybe spelled with 2 vowels next to each other, each of those vowels is going to be produced individually. So spelling doesn't matter so much in that regard, so you're not going to combine vowels at all. And then it's also important to note that the vowels in Kiswahili are never reduced regardless of where the stress is placed in the word. And then this is a Venn diagram that compares all of the phonemes used in both Kiswahili and English. So you can see by this comparison that many of the phonemes used in Kiswahili and English do overlap, again, with the biggest phonemic difference lying in the vowels. So the different vowel sounds, English uses a lot more vowel sounds. But even though just by glancing at the Venn diagram, it may look like there are more consonants used in Kiswahili, most of the consonants that are used in Kiswahili but not used in English are just allophonic variations of the consonants used in both languages. And then as far as intonation and stress patterns go, they are pretty similar in both languages. Neither Kiswahili or English are tonal languages, so your intonation of a word is not going to change the meaning of that word. And then as far as stress patterns go, you typically find that the last syllable of a word is going to be stressed in English, even though this isn't necessarily a hard and fast rule. And then in Kiswahili, the penultimate or the second to last syllable is usually what you're going to find to be the stress syllable in a word. So as far as our diagnosis of our speaker goes, because the speaker has been speaking English from a young age, he learned it in an academic setting in Kenya, and then he's also lived in the United States for 10 years. So his phonemic differences from a standard American English speaker is really kind of what we would expect for, someone that is native in another language. And his differences probably are just more of an accent than anything. And then for each speech sound error that we observed in his sample, the speaker also was able to demonstrate correct use of each phoneme in another word or another area in the speech sample. So we do not think that Kiswahili speaker number 3 has any sort of speech disorder.
All right, so that concludes our presentation. Thank you everyone so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.